Hi everyone, David Maley here, and today I'm going to show you how I do pivot tables and pivot charts really quick and really fast. You know, there's a lot of videos out there on how to use them, but the main constituent here is that if you're going to be in data analysis or data science, you need to know how to use these. And the reason being is Excel is just a very quick and easy program to be able to use to go and digest and quickly filtrate through some data and get some quick insights. You know, I can go and use R, and I can go and use all kinds of various things, Alteryx and all these other programs, but the thing is, before I start on them, what I want to do is I'm going to quickly just tear into the data and see, you know, what lies in there. Where is it best going to be analyzed in? Should I go the route of Alteryx? Should I go the route of R? Should I go, you know, what should I do? So the quickest thing what I do is I just take the data, and if it's a large data set, then I'll go and take a sample of it. And a good sample would be like maybe 1/25th of it, or less, depending on the size of the data. Obviously in Excel you have some limits of how many rows, around 500,000 rows, that you can bring back of data, and it doesn't work as well once you go above that, or it starts to error out and get, you know, some weird functional issues. So what I've got here is a data set from the University of California Irvine's Data Science Department. It's the bike share data set, which is for 2 years. I believe it's 2011 and 2012. And basically, you look here, this is the exact data set, the way it comes from there. I haven't changed anything. So what I'm first going to do is day-to-day. This is the date field. Obviously, it's in the wrong format, so let's go change that quickly. Hold on a second here. There we go. And we want to change that to a date. Okay. Right now that's fine, so let's hit OK. There we go. Now you can see the dates, 2011, and if I were to go down this list, it goes into 2012. There you go. So we've got that. The other thing I want to change here is temperature, because they have it as a percentage or a decimal. So what we'll do is we'll just take these, and actually I already did it right here. I forgot about that. But we're going to take that and multiply it by 100. So this right here is actually this multiplied by 100. So that's called temp 100. That's why I made that. So that is one change I did make to this data set. I forgot about that, but that's a very simple calculation. You just hit equals this. So this would equal J2 times 100 times 100, and you would just carry that on down this list, and that would multiply each one out by 100. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new sheet, and we'll call this our pivot. You know, pivot, something like that. So we'll call it that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here and see the data. It goes all the way out to, let's see, we've got A through U. I don't have to remember that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, I usually start it on the third line, so I have room above to make notes, to put some headers in to say, you know, this is for graph 1, this is for graph 2, things like that, from creating a dashboard and stuff. And here I'll hit insert, hit pivot table, hit this button right here, because I'm going to go back to the other page. I always do this anyway for anything I choose, even if it's on that page. It makes it so much simpler. And then I go to sheet 1. Let's take this back to the beginning, because if I didn't, I would be starting, where did that start? That started over here, so I'd be starting at G. I would have lost all of columns F through A, or A through F. So let's take it back to the beginning. I want from columns A, so we select like this with the headers too, you know, the column names, all the way until the end. The last one is U. This gets us all the way down to the bottom of that data set and beyond. So I'm not just taking from here and going up. I could do that, and that would be correct for this data set. But what if I made some changes somewhere else that brought in this data? Now, like if I wanted to increase the sample size from 732 rows to 4,000 rows. With this setup, I can do that, and it goes straight as a model into the pivot table, and all I have to do is click refresh in the pivot table. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So let's take this, and let's go back to our pivot. So you don't click this. We don't need to. We've already selected the whole row, you know, all the columns in this. We just select this, and we hit OK. Bam, it goes in there. Now what I have here is available is all of the rows that have names on them. If you have a row in a data set that does not have a name at the top, it will give you a problem, because it won't know what to do with that. Depending on the version of Excel you're in, it might give it a default name. But Here we go. Here's our data. I could quickly go and say, let's see, with this one we have, I believe, count is the total of sales per day. So we have that over there. We want to have a time series, so we pick day to day, which is our dates. Okay, see how dates is over here now? I'll bring this up in a minute to show it to you better. There we go. Years, quarters. It'll sometimes with Excel give you months or quarters or years or periods if you have that data in there and it's applicable to it. Sometimes it won't. So I'll show you how that works here in a minute. So let's take this back down here. I've got some of the count. I could also say, let's see, what do I want to look at? I could look at the average temperature on each day. So we could do that. And remember, we fixed it so that the temp 100 would be that. So we could do that. And there's the sum of that. So now with it built this way, if you look at this one here has no data behind it. Watch. See, there's no data. There's no data there. So what we want to do is take this guy here. Let's go over here. And I want to remove that one. So filter, and we want to hide. We're not going to delete it, but we're just hiding that one. And see how it takes care of that. And it's gone. It doesn't delete it. We don't delete the data. There are instances where you might want to delete data, but right now we don't need to. Now, if I look at 2011, we have built into 4 quarters. With 2012, we have built into 4 quarters automatically, and we can open those up and see the data for everything in there. Well, let's take a look at that and see how that looks and see if we want to keep the quarters and years. If we don't, we just click here and pull it up here, and it removes that from the values. So what we want to do now is click anywhere in this chart. So for instance, if you were out here, you lose that little panel here, click back into your pivot chart. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to insert, and we'll go to a pivot. We're going to do a graph now. So that was a pivot table, I'm sorry. This is the pivot chart. And let's see, so I could do a line, and you'll see now the sum of the temperature range is not going to be anywhere as big as the sum of the count. So I'll show you a neat trick for that in a minute here. But let's say I want to hit OK with that. We're OK with that. Here's our pivot chart. Let's take this and remove all the field buttons on there. Let's add a chart title, and we could call this, what is this? Count or total rentals and daily temperature by date temperature. We don't have to put the by date yet. Let's figure out how we're going to do that. So right now we have that. Now the count here, what is this? This is the count of what? That's the total sales, total rentals, right? So that's not a dollar value. If it were, we could change this. So let's do this. Let's go back here, click here, click here. That way it gets the row, and we could format this. If we wanted that for money, we would pick currency. We don't, so we pick number. We don't need this because there's nobody that rents half of a bike or a third of a bike. So we do this. I mean, it's possible if you rented it to 2 different people, but we don't need that for the purpose of this. Use a 1000 separator, make it look nice. There we go. Now this is the temperature thing. This is the problem, is are there going to be temperatures really of that? No. So I don't see that as being as helpful. I think that should be in another graph. So let's go here. Let's take that one out. That's a part of data analysis, figuring out what's good data and what's bad. And it doesn't mean that's bad data. Just in this period, this part, we don't want that. Now let's take a look at our graph here. The same data is still over here to our left, and we have months, quarters, and obviously you see how we have it opened up here. It's only showing us those because those are open. This is just very messy. It's good for a slicer maybe. Do we want to have all that? I think that's an overdose to have quarters in here, so let's get rid of quarters. That looks a lot better to me. Now we have all the days, but we are missing some. Why? Because we didn't have it open far enough. You'll see that in your pivot chart. If it's too small, it'll automatically start to remove some of the months. Look, as I make it smaller, see that? We only have November, we don't have December in there. So let's make it bigger. And we don't need to have this because we only have one attribute in here, so one dimension. So let's just close that out so we get the full width of the graph. And so now we have broken out by year, and we have every month in there. That's nice, and that looks good, and we can actually track, how it's doing. Now we could add things to it, or we could create another graph. Let's say we are good with that graph. Let's put that right there. Okay. Now what we can do is, if we want to graph something else, I'm not going to graph it in here. I'll graph it and create a new copy of this table, or I can go and create a new pivot chart based on, or pivot table based on this, and then a pivot chart. But what I want to do now is I'm going to take this and I want to show you something cool here. So let's take this and move this over a little bit. And what we're going to do is go back to the insertion table here, and there is a thing called a slicer and a timeline. So let's take the slicer first. Let's put the slicer in. So the slicer says I can go and slice through this data based on what I want to do. So what do I want to look at? I could look at it based by, let's see, date. That would be more of like a timeline, but I can do it based on, we did count. So let's do count again. So let's say if I want to do that, and I'm just showing this by example, this is what we do. So you can look at this, and this has all the different counts on it. Do I want that? Not really. That doesn't look very helpful, because that would show me when it's that count, and I really don't want that. So let's get rid of that. That's not a very helpful one. Let's delete that out, and let's just click here, delete it, it's gone. Alright, so let's bring back in another slicer. So let's go to insert and go to slicer. And so maybe I want, let's see, what do we have here? We have weekday. That might be interesting to see what it is on a weekday. Temperature, where its temperature is 100. It would have every temperature in there. Maybe we have year, maybe we have month. Let's pick month. Then we can drill down by month. Okay, and obviously here it's got months. We could change these from 1 through 12. We want to remove the blank, so unless you have a reason to have a blank, so I might sometimes have it if I have groups 0 through 5 for something. I might have 0 as a specific group, like non-carded or non-subscribed people, customers for a company. Then I might want to leave that, but in this case I don't want to, so I have it here. So I'm going into the slicer settings. You saw what I just did that, and click here, and it's gone. But again, to do that, all you do is click here, slicer settings, and you click this little button right here. Okay, and that removes the zeros. Now what happens with this slicer is it's by month. I could have different slicers on here, but if I pick month 4, it tells me exactly, you know, comparing, which is kind of cool here, because year over year I'm comparing April versus April 2011 versus April 2012. Here's February, here's January. They tend to be in a very upward, but they're not always the same exact slope. You see that? See the slope changed again there. It changed, well, there it's the same. There it's changed a little bit. There it definitely changed and went down a little bit. So the slope is different based on the month for the year. You could do that. Let's say I don't want that, right? So let's take this, I can cut it and remove it. I can also hit delete on my keyboard once I've clicked on it. And let's put another one in. So if we go back here, go to slicers again. I can go and say, let's see, maybe I want, did I pick temperature? Let's see, I could pick quarters. I could select, that might be interesting. Let's pick that one, because I do have that available in here. And your data set depends on the data you have available to you. Obviously these two, greater than 2013 doesn't exist in here, and less than 2001 does not, or 2011 does not exist in here. So these two we probably want to remove. So slicer settings, anything with no data, and boom, there they go. See, if they had data in them, they would not have disappeared there. Now let's, if we clear this though, oops, it gets rid of them. So that's not something we want to do. Alright, so now we have them all back. Somehow it also filtered these down. So we can look at quarter 4, quarter 3, quarter 2, quarter 1. That's actually more helpful than just month over month, but that's fine. This is quarter over quarter. Month over month does show you a little bit of change, but sometimes you would rather look at a larger frame. So you got quarter over quarter. That's kind of cool measure to have here, and financial wise we may want to have that. We may also want to have year over year. So what if we do that? We insert that. So let's go here, go back to slicers, and oops, you know what we did? We didn't click on this. You have to be clicked into this, not your other slicer, otherwise it doesn't know what to look at. Now what we're going to do, we're going to do year. So if we click year, we just hit OK. Now we've got another slicer here underneath the quarter. So we got quarter and we got year. And let's go here and get rid of that. Okay, that was the extra blank. Sometimes you'll find that you have to release the filters to get what you want to see, and they can carry over something. So now what I've done is we've got year and we've got quarter, and this one has a little bar to it. If we bring that down a little bit, maybe that gets rid of the bar. Let's try and get rid of that a little bit. Okay, and we bring that down a little bit. There we go. So now if I hit this, let's clear the filter. Okay, I want all the data back. Then let's hit this. That's 2011 and that's 2012. It's not going to compare in year over year because that we already have right here. Okay, so in this case it just shows the year if I want it and the year here. Now think about it. If I don't release this and I hit quarter one, what's it going to do? Now it doesn't show me comparing quarter to quarter per year. It's just showing me 2012 because that's already filtered. If I remove that, now I've got both. So keep in mind you have to remove the correct filter to see the correct data. If you have more, especially if you have more than one slicer on here. I could also have picked this, which is the timeline. And oops, here we go again. See, I'm clicked out here. If I'm out here, it won't do it. I have to be clicked inside of the pivot chart. So in here, I go to Insert and I go to Timeline. So let's say I want to do a timeline. The only thing available to me is your time series fields. In this case, day to day is the daily growth of this data. And if I go in here, I now have, let's bring this down a little bit, and let's see here if I can bring it over here. There we go. That's perfect. So now you can see I've got, this is the full thing open. I have no filters right on my data, right? None. So what I can do right here is I can select, and it goes all the way back. I could say, let's say I want May and to August. I can have a little bit more customized look at, you know, certain dates from here. But again, that's a filter. So when I go into here, it's going to filter it based on that. If I hit 2012, it goes blank, see, because I've just filtered already that. So let's clear that. Then I would have to clear this. But that's cool because now you have slicers and you have the date thing, which is right here. So you have timeline and you have slicers. So this will show you exactly how to delve into your data and see your data through pivot charts quickly and easily. So you saw how I took this data here, I took it over here, and I did this. Now if I went back to this sheet and let's say I added a row to it. Okay, let's go to the very bottom to it. For whatever reason, let's just copy this row. Copy that, and let's paste that here. So we hit paste, right? Oops. It's not the same size. Alright, let's insert. Let's do that. It might be better. Dang it. Let's do this. Let's do insert copied cells. There we go. So we have twice of them, but let's just say that, let's take a look at this data and say we wanted to change this to a date of, I don't know, well, it's not going to work as well with this data. It might work with other data better, but if I added a date to it, let's make this, I don't know, 1 and make this, oops, 1 and 13, right? So we delete that out. So now I've added equivalent date, but it's an extra day on, and if I go to my pivot chart, I can actually hit this and hit refresh. Okay, but I've already filtered out 2011 or 2013, right? So if I look at this, now I have one for this. I could bring that back in here, hit OK, and we should have it showing in here. Now it may not, I don't know about the data in there and stuff, but let's see here. Oh, that's for less than that. I want to do greater than, let's see, yeah, that's selected in there. There we go. So there's our data showing for the month of January for that one, and that would correlate into our chart by hitting refresh the data, and it should be in there. There it is right there. So instead of ending in December, it goes on into January. Now obviously that makes our data a little bit messy. I just wanted to show you how, because I selected originally the whole data set with all rows when I created that pivot chart, everything I do here when I hit refresh here on this pivot chart comes in here and goes into here. So this is in marketing and in digital analysis and in financial analysis. Any data analysis, you're going to want to create a model that's reusable if you can. And the reason being is you don't want to keep recreating new stuff. So in this case, I might be doing a task or an assignment for a department that they might be giving me different sets of data for. They might say, oh, you know, we like that. It was a one-time request. But now we want it every month. So they're going to send me data every month. Well, why would I want to recreate this when I have tons of tasks on my list? And all I need to do is take their data, make sure it looks in this format. You know, if it's not, I've got to change it to be in this format. In this case, I would have to add this one field with this one calculation. And then all I have to do, once I put it in there, copy and paste it in there, back it up, and name this something else, and then just come in here, hit refresh, and boom, there's my data. And I could have multiple graphs down here. I could have multiple pivot charts or pivot tables and pivot charts, create a dashboard, and what's really neat with this is they all load fresh based on my data changes. Well, I just showed you how to do pivot tables, pivot charts, some cool tricks, how to make it so that your data model here with these carries across no matter what happens with the rows, as long as they match the data. And I showed you slicers and timelines. All cool stuff. I mean, there's a couple other things you can do here, like maybe changing your colors. Right here, you can change the colors of this graph and make it look green or orange or whatever you want. But regardless, we showed you all those cool features and stuff. You can make dashboards with this. You can do all kinds of cool stuff and look at your data really quick and fast. This is not the end for all. Obviously, there's things far more advanced that you can do with distribution plots, time series analysis, and stuff like that in R, in Alteryx, and many numerous data platforms. This is a great way to just look at your data quickly, give users what they want quickly if it's something that's really quickly can be done, so you can move on to other bigger tasks. And also you can develop great insights really fast and say, oh, you know what? This would be interesting if I did this in R because I need to do more of a regression analysis on this. I need to do more of a dive into forecasting. You could do that. You could do that in Alteryx. But this is a great way to start and figure out where you need to go and what you need to do and what you're looking at really fast. Maybe you need to just go back to a meeting with your users and say, hey, you know what? Based on the data you gave me, these are the interesting insights from this, and this is why I want to take 2 weeks to do a full time series analysis, or I need 3 more days to do it in Alteryx or whatever I'm going to do. And with that information, armed with the images and the graphs and the visuals here, they'll be much more, you know, they'll be much more acceptable or to do that. Thanks again for watching this. I hope you found this interesting. This is what we do every day in data analysis and data science as a start for many larger projects or for simple tasks that, you know, we want to just have something built, a model that we can just stick data in, run it through, and build some quick visuals. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like, and have a great day.